y'all, Dixie here. Today I want to talk to you about gear I'd like to try in 2024. First, let's talk about the big three. As far as a new pack goes, I'm thinking about trying out the ULA Ultra Catalyst. Apparently ULA took all of their pack designs and came out with a new Ultra version of all of them, which just means it's made out of Ultra material. I don't really keep up with what's going on in the gear world, probably as much as I should, so I've been kind of out of the loop, especially with not backpacking as much this year. But even Zpacks and other companies have started to come out with ultra versions of their packs they had previously. From what I understand, it's more lightweight, more durable, and it's actually waterproof instead of just water resistant like Robic nylon is. Something else I feel like I should mention about these ultra versions of the ULA packs is, in the spirit of being more waterproof, I guess they've removed the hydration port on all of the packs that are the ultra versions, so that are made out of waterproof material. And for me, that's not a deal breaker because I typically am not using a bladder with a tube anyway, but for any of y'all who are absolutely gonna find that to be a deal breaker, you should know that ahead of time. And even though the Ultra Catalyst is waterproof, I would still personally use a Nylofume pack liner because I like redundancies in waterproofing, and you never know when briars or a rock or a stick or something can punch a hole in your waterproof pack, and then it's not waterproof anymore. And some of y'all might remember that I actually have a ULA pack already. I have the Ohm 2.0, and this is the older version before they were coming out with this Ultra. So I had thought maybe I should get an Ohm 2.0 Ultra version, but if I'm being honest with myself, I have continued to add weight to my pack over the years, so it makes more sense because the Ohm 2.0 is rated for 30 pounds, whether it's the Ultra version or the older version. So I looked at what the next step up would be as far as weight max capacity, and that is the Catalyst, which goes up to 40 pounds. It still has the feature that I really like about my Ohm 2.0, and that's the little strap that connects from the hip belt to the actual pack itself, and for me has given the best fit of any pack on my hips. For a new shelter, I am eyeing, I guess what really isn't a new shelter, but the Zpacks Duplex with a zipper. I think I would have fared a lot better in Iceland when I went and did the Lagavegr Trail. Having that zipper closure would have helped me a whole lot, and in general I'm a cold sleeper, so having more closed off space and less ventilation I think would help with warmth, even if just a little bit. I am a little skeptical of the magnet closure improvement that they've made as to whether it's actually an improvement. The magnet closures, from my personal experience, have been more of a cool idea in theory, but not as much in practice, because if they're not strong enough, then they can really be a pain in the butt because any little bumpage makes them come loose and you're constantly fixing it back. So I'd rather just deal with what some people refer to as like clunky closures and have to actually put a little bungee around a little peg, if you will, to keep the door open. With that said, I do still want to get a good run with my Durston Xmid Pro 2 because the Idaho trip was just not ideal for me in general. But they have made some upgrades since the version of the Xmid Pro 2 that I have, including some pockets on the inside of the tent, also stronger magnets because those magnet closures were a pain in the butt. So I'm thinking about selling my Xmid Pro 2 and then upgrading to the newer one. And then maybe I could get a really good comparison between the new Duplex and the newest Xmid Pro 2. The last piece of my big three is a new quilt. I've been kind of stuck on the Enlightened Equipment Enigma Apex Custom since I switched from down to synthetic, and as far as I know, I'm still allergic to down, or at least I'm not willing to test that theory yet. So while I really do like my quilt, I still would like to try some sort of new synthetic sleeping bag, My Enigma is rated for 20-degree weather. That is a comfort rating, and it weighs 26.79 ounces. Now, I have heard about UP insulation as opposed to Apex insulation in the past when I talked about synthetic quilts, and several of y'all made recommendations for different companies, but I couldn't find any at the time that were making quilts that were a similar weight, like within a few ounces or less would be even more desirable. So I do remember some folks mentioning like Cedar Ridge, and I looked them up to see if they had come out with anything more lightweight, and it seems like they're not making the quilts anymore. So if y'all have any recommendations, I think at this point I would be willing to budge a few ounces on the heavier side just for the sake of packability. So anyway, if you've got any recommendations, please leave them in the comments for me to check out. I do see that Dutchware sells the actual UP insulation itself, but I'm not to the point yet of making my own gear, but maybe this is just going to push me towards that. Moving along, the next piece of gear that I would like to officially test out in 2024 is actually this little hoodie I've got on here. It's an Alpha Direct hoodie. I got it this past spring from a company named Cinchi, and it was the Merlin design is what they called it at the time. It looks like maybe they've changed the naming scheme, but you can get them from different companies. This particular one cost me $115 plus shipping, and it weighs 7.2 ounces. There are different insulation weights. From what I've seen, there is 60, 90, and this one's 120 because I am cold-natured, so I tend to go for the things to help out people who hate being cold. The idea behind these Alpha Direct hoodies is they're not big and bulky. A lot of times when you have a fleece pullover or a zip up, it doesn't pack down well, and they're just kind of heavy, especially when compared to down. But these right here might look kind of floofy from afar, but when you're looking at it up close, you can actually see how porous they are. And when I first got it, I was like, what in the heck's this thing gonna do? Because it's got little holes all in it. It's not gonna keep me warm, but it's an insulating layer more for under something else than for an outer shell. So the idea would be maybe to hike with this on under your raincoat when you're going through a cold rainstorm. That way you've got some insulation and then your rain gear on top of it, so you don't really have to worry about the little holes as much because you've got a windbreak. And then, you know how it is when you get to backpacking in your rain gear, sometimes you start heating up, and then when you want to unzip your outerwear to kind of cool off, it takes a lot of like flapping your fleece to try to let some of that heat out. So this will actually dump that heat much easier when you do unzip your outer layer. If your puffy coat isn't warm enough, especially for folks like me who can't do the really floofy down, then I can put this on under my synthetic puffy coat. And because it's thinner and more lightweight, it's obviously gonna dry out faster. But because I am allergic to down, this seemed like a synthetic option to look into, and it is several ounces more lightweight than the fleece that I used to backpack with. So hopefully this year I'll get a good test on it. Next, a sun hoodie. I got a cheap one off of Amazon that was made out of polyester before I went and hiked in Idaho, and it worked fine as far as it covered my body, and it was SPF 50, and I felt like it did actually protect my skin from the sun. But I guess my biggest complaint about it is that I didn't feel like it was as ventilated as I wanted it to be for a sun hoodie. I mean, to me, a sun hoodie, you're trying to protect your skin, but you feel like you're going to be pretty warm, so you want to protect your skin while also not burning up to death, because I could just put on any long sleeve shirt to protect my skin. I know there are others out there that are probably better quality, and some that are made from different materials like Merino or Alpaca, bamboo. So if y'all have any experience with sun hoodies that you loved that are ventilated and do protect your skin up to SPF 50 at least, then please leave your recommendations in the comments, because like I said, I'm on the hunt. Oh, and definitely a bonus for thumb holes. Next is rain mitts. For years I have used the Showa Timris gloves that Andrew Skirka mentioned he really liked, because he was able to have a waterproof glove so that he had some dexterity. And while I have appreciated having that dexterity because I paired these gloves with possum down gloves, because I am so cold-natured, my hands just don't stay as warm as I would like them to when the temperatures are really cold outside and I'm getting rained on. So I thought maybe I should try some of those waterproof mitts. That way at least my digits are all in the same little pocket together with the possum down gloves on. The ones I'm on are the, I assume it's pronounced Virtus waterproof rain mitts that are on Zpacks website. If y'all have any experience with those or any others that you loved that are similar weight range, then feel free to make those suggestions. Now moving on to the camera side of things, one upgrade that I will probably make in 2024 is going from the DJI Pocket 2 to the Pocket 3. First of all, the Pocket 3 has better image quality, but something that I would personally find useful is apparently they've improved the tracking ability. That was a problem that I found with the 2. I was really looking forward to that feature and then it just didn't work out well for me. But also it shoots in slow motion. It's got a low light setting. It has different presets for things like time lapses of clouds and sunsets, which I love. And the screen is also a little bit bigger than the 2, which is always convenient when you're in the field trying to look through what you've got. Now, the downside of this is that it's going to be 2 ounces heavier and cost more than my 2 did. But again, if I can sell my 2, then I can use it towards upgrading to the 3. So anyway, those are the upgrades I'm thinking about making for this year. And I know this might seem a little odd coming out pretty much right after I organized all of my gear and got rid of things. But I do, now that things are organized, have some space for some additional items. And also, if I like the upgrades, then obviously I would get rid of the older stuff and this would take its place. And as far as getting back out into the backpacking world goes, I know some of y'all are probably like, did I miss an update? Like, are you allowed to go backpacking again? I finally had a stress test done last week from my original cardiologist, although I'm still going to establish with a new one, because considering I had to wait almost 3 months because the treadmill was out of the office, it's just time for me to go somewhere else. But once I have some sort of knowledge as to what's been going on and a blessing from a doctor to get on back out there, then I'll get back out there. So I'm hoping that that will come sooner rather than later. My follow-up is in January, and then I'm hoping at that point pretty soon after, you know, I'll get the green light to get back out in the wilderness. And just an update as to all of the lie flat Garmin situation, because I know some of y'all have asked, like, hey, has Garmin ever actually paid up on that insurance policy that you had? Because I want to know it's worth it, that I'm not paying into something that they're going to try to skate out of. To my knowledge, it seems like Garmin is doing what they're supposed to do. They've been keeping me up to date with the process and what's happening when I check in. With that said, it has been 3 months since I got the bill to them and it still has not been paid yet. But I would say at least a 2-week delay has happened on my part, because my Life Flight last name was my married name and my Garmin insurance name was my maiden name, so I think they kind of had to discuss that and work it out. To my understanding, we're back on track now and things should be happening soon where this is paid off. But if it doesn't happen for some reason, or even if it does, I will certainly keep y'all in the loop, because I'm not going to promote Garmin stuff if they don't actually, you know, deliver on what they say they will. But like I said, it does seem like they're going to. All right, y'all, well, that is all I have for you today. And if you have any more gear recommendations that you'd like to see me test out, please feel free to leave that in the comments below. I hope all of you had a very Merry Christmas and that 2024 is good to you. And we will see y'all next year.